All right, hello YouTube, Mukluk here, and recently I have finished visiting every feasible healer in Guild Wars 2, of which there are a lot. There are a lot of them. I tried all of them for a minimum of one play session each, so like 3 to 5 hours. Some of them I have played for thousands of hours, and I know them better than others, but I tried out all of the healers that seem to be real healers in the game, and I left my own little notes, and this is a video of me just sharing my thoughts and comparing them against each other in my mind. I want to preface at the beginning of this video, every single healer here on this list are healers that can do the job, right? If you are in a group with any of these people and they know what they're doing, you can clear 95% of the content in the game. Okay, you'll be fine. Now, any of them could suck. They could be bad. It's possible. But any of these are feasible. So if I don't like something, that does not mean if you see it at a group of the future, like, oh, this guy doesn't realize he's playing a dead class. No, it's not like that. Just these are my thoughts after trying them all out. I will say, on the list of them, I did skip Mirage and Kata. I don't know if those are even real or if someone was just trolling me. People told me those were healers. I've never seen them. I looked up guides for them, and I looked on like Meta Battle and Snow Crows and Guild Gen and Hardstuck, and I found one guide on Meta Battle for Catalyst that was like 4 years old, and there was one reply to it, and it just said like, don't. And so I was like, okay, well this looks like a pain to learn and no one likes it, so I'm not going to spend time on this because it looked awful. So without further ado, I have many different categories that I graded these things on. These are my thoughts after trying every real healer in the game. The first column I have is called easiest to learn. Now, hands down, the winner for this column is Willbender. There is a healer, the Healbender. It does most of its job by literally auto-attacking. You don't even have to ever weapon swap, you just bonk, 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 bonk. You just swing a hammer a lot. It generates symbols on the ground which heal people. They're also a light field, and also by hitting one additional button besides auto attack, you will start blasting the field like every 4 seconds. I think it was hammer 2, and that does a combo that cures conditions. So by just hitting, just bonk constantly, you are doing light healing and condition cleansing all around you. Now, it's not effective in all content. You have to have everybody standing still in one spot for it to do well, but easy to learn, absolutely, Healbender takes the cake in that as far as easy to learn. Scourge. Scourge was the second one on this. The Scourge is, wait, someone said, can you make the font bigger? Yes, tell you what, we'll do that right now. There we go. Okay, hopefully that's more legible for you guys. All right, the Scourge, again, pretty much doesn't have to weapon swap. Now, easy to learn and easy to play are not the same thing. If I told you, hit this button 5,000 times per second, oh, that's easy to learn. It's not easy to do it. All right, welcome to Scourge and followed by Berserker, okay? They are pretty easy to learn. Scourge, if you get enough death juice, you can just hit F1 through F5 every time they light up. But then you're basically just slamming your fist on the entire left side of the keyboard constantly to hit all the keys. It's, people joke that it gives them carpal tunnel. Very easy to learn, but it does have a lot of button mashing. Berserker is the same. Berserker, very straightforward. Unga bunga, smash smash. In addition to doing normal weapon skills, you're hitting F1 like every 3 to 4 seconds or less, and you will never have a second where you don't have something that you need to be pressing. So it feels like if there's any downtime, your boons start falling off and things like that, all right? Like you know the idea of like the performer that's like balancing a bunch of plates, like that's the Berserker. And if there's ever a moment that you cannot be Hulk smashing something, those plates start falling down. Mechanist, very straightforward to learn. If things are going calm, it's super easy to play. They can't weapon swap, so you only have to learn the one bar. If things go crazy, more buttons start kicking in because you might have to swap in and out of med kit, elixir gun, mortar kit, stuff like that. But largely, a Mechanist that knows what they're doing, that's hitting just like the F3 on the mech and then mace 2 constantly, is gonna provide most of the essential boons and also do a fair amount of healing, regen, and barrier. And yeah, basically if their run doesn't have any panic moments, they might not even have to get out half of their kits during the run. Druid, with the addition of Mace and Warhorn, which I'm happy to be on my Druid right now, you hardly ever have to swap into Staff now, unless you really need the wall to block projectiles or the 3 for movement. You're basically swapping between Mace, Warhorn, and Astral Form. Those are your 2 weapons you're using on the regular, and then the Staff is kind of just like for special occasions. And so you are swapping between 2 weapons, but it's very simple. It's pretty easy to keep boons up. At this point in time, the hardest part about keeping, and I'm not saying it's difficult, I'm just saying the hardest part of the things that you have to do is making sure you go into Alacrity to reapply Grace the Land often, because each application of it is only 2 seconds of Alacrity, so you constantly have to that a lot. But other than that, it's not bad to learn at all. Bladesworn, same thing. It just talked about easiest to learn, Untamed, Chrono, Tempest. All right, so at this point, it starts getting a bit more complicated. You know, we've gone from like never swaps weapons to swaps weapons, but it's pretty chill. And then this one is like, you know, this one doesn't really swap weapons, but you're doing with the whole shatter mechanic, and you've got to deal with learning to count clones and be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, shatter, 1, 2, 3, shatter, 1, 2, 3, shatter, 1, 2, 3, shatter. And it's like a rhythm game at that point. Not too bad, but it is something you have to learn. Flip side, Chrono doesn't really have to swap weapons much. They can. You can get more out of it if you do. Tempest is a lot to learn simply because of the elements. You got your fire skills, water skills, air skills, earth skills, Captain Planet skills. You got all of those. There was a lot to learn there. And I had to filter it out. I was like, okay, in fire, this is a DPS move, this is a DPS move, and that's a DPS move. All right, I don't need to learn those right now. I'm just looking at support stuff. And that helped me, it helped it out. But as far as easiest to learn, Tempest, you'll be reading tooltips for a while. You've just 1 through 5, you've got 20 buttons because of all the elements. Renegade and Herald, in addition to learning one set of weapon skills, and then another set of weapon skills, you've got a set of legend skills, and then another set of legend skills, and then you've also got the energy system. So if you're like, okay, at this point in the fight, when I play my Firebrand, I need to give my group stability. Well, on the Revenant, at that point in the fight, you need to make sure you are in the correct legend, and that skill is off cooldown, and you have enough energy to cast stability. So there's 3 requirements. Whereas every other class is just stability button off cooldown. So there's 3, yeah, and with the Revenant or Herald, you've got to juggle the energy system also, which as someone who has never mained that class, that was very, that took a lot more time to learn, like way more than Tempest. Scrapper. Scrapper has I would say the most difficult system for keeping its boons up. That's not to say it's insane, but it's the most difficult. You're constantly having to do blast or leap finishers, not whirl, so you're not allowed to use the shredder gyro for some stupid reason, but you're constantly have to do blast or leap finishers in order to keep up your primary boon, which is quickness. And also, to keep prot up, you have to make sacrifices, because they put prot on the skill that gives Aegis. They put prot on the skills that block attacks if you're shield. They put prot on your revive, and they put prot on your largest heal. So you have to choose some of those things to sacrifice in order to keep prot on the group, which it's weird. And I'll talk more about that later, but it makes it kind of clunky to learn. Plus you've also got all the kits. You need to learn your med kit and your elixir gun kit and your mortar kit, stuff like that. Just like Mechanist, except the default rotation is more complex. Firebrand, tons of weapons. Their F1, F2, and F3 are each opening up another tome, and there's a whole nother set of skills. So similar to Tempest, actually more than Tempest, you've got 25 buttons for your 1 through 5. Because you got Weapon 1, Weapon 2, Tome 1, Tome 2, and Tome 3. So there was a lot of buttons there. Additionally, you've got like a cone of boon application. So you've got to actually learn how to aim your boons more than any other class in the game, I believe. And also pages. With Firebrand, there is a resource that's called pages. Basically, like they've got a book and it fills with pages, and they can burn those pages to do special effects. It's their mana bar. It's not nearly as complex as like the Herald and the Revenant one, but it does exist, so it's worth noting. Spectre and Herald I put at the very end. Spectre because you have to like target the enemy, target the ally, do this on the enemy, do this at the ally, and it's very clunky, and it involves a lot of going back and forth, and literally no other class has to do that. You could, like if you're using Scepter on Revenant, you could do some ally targeting a lot, and then that makes it more difficult to play, but the default Spectre experience is quite challenging compared to many of the others. And then Herald at the end, again, because of the reasons mentioned earlier. I put it further down than Renegade as far as how complex it is because of the facets. So Herald has the Glint legend, the dragon one. So in addition to 5 weapon skills, 5 more weapon skills, 5 legend skills, 5 more legend skills, the 5 facets flip over to 5 more skills. So there's 15 skills over here, 10 over here, and also the energy system to learn if you're coming into it and you don't know anything. So I give Herald the toughest to learn award, and Spectre second to that. Now, again, these are my opinion, and this is if you're going into it having not played that class before. Okay, my second column, APM, Actions Permanent. So this does not necessarily mean a complex rotation. This is how many buttons are you clicking? That's it. Berserker wins. Berserker, you are hitting the F1 key like you might as well just like rebind it to a mouse button and just spam click it constantly. You are just beating the ever-living hell out of that key. The rest of the rotation, it feels kind of like you're playing a normal character, but you have to hit that button a lot. Firebrand, rather than hitting one button a lot, you're hitting a million buttons a little. So if Berserker is just like, I hit this button, so many times, Firebrand, it almost feels like I've got 30 buttons and each one gives boons for 1 second. So I'm just like, just hitting all the keys, trying to keep up all of the things. Now granted, I had like 5 hours of experience on Firebrand, but that's how it felt. Scourge, decently high APM if you don't rebind anything for your left hand, because you're doing your movement, you're doing your 1 through 5, you're doing F1 through F5, and then also your other skills. And some of them, like F1 and F2, are like very short cooldown. So you're hitting those very frequently. Again, not complex to learn, hit them when they light up, but that's high APM. Spectre, I also have here because of again, there was really no moment I felt like I had a break. It's just like there was something that needed to be done at every second. And then Chrono after that, but definitely less so than the others. And then I didn't even list the others, because the others, there's a severe fall off on APM here, in my opinion. The others all feel like more normal to play. Like, a lot of people ask me why didn't I have Tempest in this column? Tempest has a lot of buttons. Tempest doesn't feel like it has high APM to me. Because, like, there are times when you're just like, you click Elemental Overload and your guy starts spinning and I can get up and go make a sandwich. Like, there are many moments when you are waiting on overloads and you're just staring at the screen, Your APM literally drops to 0. So, I don't think Tempest really needs to be in the this is rough on your APM column. It's more, you have a million tools, but, you spend lots of time just watching your character channel big effects. Okay. Stability. And for those who don't know, stability is a boon, a buff that you can give someone, and what it does is it blocks the next CC that would hit them, crowd control, knockdown, fear, knockback, whatever. Firebrand has the most of it. It has, for many, many years, it was the only healer that had any. It still has the most applications of it. Just the default Guardian has ways of giving its whole group stability, like stand your ground and stuff like that. Firebrand has even more with the tomes. It has a reputation. That reputation hasn't really changed. Chrono has a few nice ways of doing it, like pulsing stability from one of its wells. I think Precognition, forgive me if that's wrong, I played it for 1 day, it was a lot of fun though. Willbender has access to many of the Guardian stability tools, but not the Firebrand tools, so less than them. Druid has been given 2 sources of stability over the years since Firebrand was king. We've got one that gives stability just 1 stack, but it lasts 10 seconds instantly to everyone around us. And another, if we give up our big res, we could do pulsing stability in an area, which is very good if there's like a whole series of knockbacks coming, like the final fight in the Nightmare Fractal, for example. So Druid only has 2 sources, but he does have 2. Scrapper, for the most part, usually has Defense Field in their kit, which is 4 or 5 stacks with a nice duration, and it also blocks projectiles. Mechanist has 1 stability in its kit, and unfortunately, it's on the exact same button as the Aegis. So if you give your group stability or Aegis, you cannot give them the other one anytime soon. Tempest, I believe, has 1, maybe 2 if you have staff with Earth and you transfuse Earth. I learned it with Dagger Warhorn, so I think I had access to 1. Herald, if you have the freedom to... So default heal Herald runs Centaur and Glint. If you are in a fight where you have to bring way more stability, you could give up the Centaur to bring the Dwarf Road. If you've played Wither Revenant, you've probably seen it before, like a road is formed and it gives pulsing stability. One of the highest sources of stability in the game, it just gives a ton of it. And they can run that if they have to. Even if they're not running that on a fight, they do have a move in Centaur that can give a stability to their teammates. It just takes some setup and it's annoying, but if you're a teammate to a Herald, you might not realize everything they had to go through to do that. And you'll just be like, oh, he gave us stability. Nice. Berserker and Bladesworn, I believe, have access to 1 stability through one of the banners. And Renegade feels less like, okay, Renegade is the same as the Herald in that Centaur can provide 1 stability, but if you swap to Dwarf, you can get more. However, Renegade, I really didn't feel like I could swap because it felt like the Centaur and also the Kala were like required to do my job. Maybe someone who's better at Revenant than me could substitute one of them for the Dwarf, but so that's why I put it lower. Spectre. Spectre does have stability in its kit. I believe Spectre Shroud 5 and also one of its Shadow Step things had stability. However, both of them were used in the rotation, which means they would sometimes happen to be up when the thing was going to knock your group down, and sometimes they wouldn't, and muck you. You don't get to choose. So that was kind of rough. They were in the rotation, kind of like how Scrapper might have to use their protection shortbow arrow to keep prot up, and then they don't have Aegis because it's the same muck and key. So that's why I put it there. It does have it, but it's attached to other things. There are some classes that aren't on this list at all, like Untamed, because they don't have stability at all. Aegis. All right, very similar to the last column. Does the healer provide Aegis? Firebrand and Chrono and Willbender, they all have great sources of Aegis through utility skills, and Firebrand has some stuff from Tomes, I think. Druid has access to Druid and Untamed have 2 ways of giving Aegis. One is Stone Spirit, and one is the White Tiger's Roar. If they bring that pet, has access to another one. Good for something like Deimos. Scourge has access to 1 Aegis, I believe, which is Serpent Siphon. But that also is one of their sources of regens. They just have to make sure regen's covered by other things if they're saving that skill for Aegis. Tempest, I believe, had 1 shout that gives Aegis. Berserker and Bladesworn had... I've learned a lot lately, give me a sec. Linebreaker, Staff 3. Linebreaker gives Aegis, and it's only a 12-second cooldown. You're typically spamming it to keep boons up, so you just need to make sure that you let it stay ready if you know there's a moment coming soon where you need the Aegis. Herald, Shield 4 has Aegis, so he's got access to at least 1. Mechanist, as I mentioned in the last column, he has 1 Aegis, but it's on the same button as stability. By the way, that 1 button is called Crisis Zone. It's stability, it's Aegis, it's Condition Cleanse on your whole group, it's a stun break, I believe, for your group. It does a lot. So the downside is if you use it for any of those things, all those things are on cooldown. Scrapper, I believe the only way Scrapper has access to Aegis is if they're using Shortbow, and again, it's on the same button as Prot. So if you're trying to keep Prot up, you may accidentally use your Aegis when you should have saved it, which feels bad. But that's the only source I know of on them. Can already see Scourge has stability comments on YouTube. Oh my god, let's talk about that. Okay, there's a lot of misinformation about Scourge with stability. Okay, so first off, does Scourge provide stability? Technically, it has Trail of Anguish. Trail of Anguish draws sand on the ground, a very thin line, and if it touches an ally, they get a very short duration stability. There's also a well that gives self-only stability. There's a lot of misinformation on this. I have had like 20 people in YouTube comments in previous videos tell me, you forgot about the well. The well gives stability to self for like 1 second, and then it pulses a completely different boon. It doesn't give the stability to other people, and it doesn't pulse the stability. It doesn't do stability. It's a self for 1 second stab. I don't even know why it's there. Now, Trail of Anguish does provide stability, but people have to literally be standing on, either you're stacked so tight you're like on the head of a pin, or you're able to precast it and then you stop what you're doing to move around and draw on the other people on the floor. Whereas other classes, nearly all the other classes do this. Instant. Instant, if you're anywhere in the zip code, you've got it. All right, like that's it. And during that, I mucked up my mouse sensitivity. Hang on. Okay, so that's why I have that way down there on the stability column. Trail of Anguish is just way worse than every other class's options for stat. All right, and then I think I finished talking about Aegis. All right, next column, Sabotages Teammates. Oh boy. All right, so Spectre. Spectre occasionally will use, I should rephrase this. The Spectre build I learned occasionally used blinding powder in order to go into stealth, which would then allow it to do its healing ambush, which was a bunch of boons and healing and barrier for the team. However, the blinding powder hits allies too, and when they go invisible, it stops their attacks. Now, I believe there are some other ways to play Spectre, and I hope they're better, because that was awful. There was even a note on Snow Crows that said, warning, don't group with Deadeyes with this build, it destroys them. It will ruin their day. All right, so Spectre turns teammates' attacks off from time to time. Untamed has the blinding green snot cloud. And because I happen to be on our green fella here, if I do this, and then I do this, and then I do, let me see here. Waiting on the cooldown, waiting on the cooldown. I gotta wait on the silly little icon here. Okay, and then this is the other one. Like, and those two overlap. These green particle effects follow the Untamed, and they cover the ground. So you can have teammates stand in red circles they could not see because you blinded their screen with green snot. I've mentioned this in the previous video. The art department, that's a really interesting effect. It's kind of neat. In practice, though, it just doesn't work. It's way too interfering. And you might be like, oh, well, you can turn your graphics down. Yeah, but I can't turn theirs down. And if they see it, they make mistakes. All right, Scrapper. There's only one thing. The new Shortbow 3, I think, on Scrapper, it makes these blue puddles, and again, they cover red circles. They make red circles impossible to see while they're out. Scourge and Spectre, they actually sabotage themselves. They make a giant yellow expanding circle from time to time. Only they see it, I have been told. But I have dodged, and I've been told many other people have dodged out of their own yellow circles so many times. It makes it difficult to see other things. That graphic is not great. In some way, shape, or form, I would love for that to be changed, or have an option in the options menu to change it, because it covers a lot of what's going on the ground. So I'm not a fan of that. Spectre's so bad it's in that column twice. Yeah. All right, sorry, it's there because of stealthy teammates, and it's there because of self-sabotage. I'm leaving it, I'm leaving it. All right, another column. What I like to call caught in the wrong mode moments. Does your healer have a moment where it's like, man, I could be saving that guy, except I'm currently like this, and I can't save him right now. I can't do that. And actually, I think Druid should be here too. Okay, so first up, Herald and Renegade. The reason is the legends and the weapon swapping. So the legends, most Revenant builds that I found are constantly swapping between the legends. They might be like, you know, Glint, Centaur, or Kala, Centaur. If something happens and you needed to be in Legend A and you're currently in Legend B and you don't have the ability to swap off cooldown, it feels bad. Tempest typically is going, what is it? Fire overload. Water, air, earth overload. Air, water, fire overload. Water, air, earth overload. That's it. They're playing Guitar Hero in the back, all right? Like, you're doing your thing, they're playing Guitar Hero behind you. If you get in trouble and they're not in water, they will probably use Wash the Pain Away, their shout heal. If you're in trouble still and they're not in water, and they can't go to water at that moment because it's on cooldown, it's a bad time. If they can get into the water element, they have a lot of tools there that can help you, but they don't sit in the heal element, which feels weird, all right? They spend so much time in fire to keep your might up, and they spend so much time in earth to keep other stuff up, but they have to overload things to keep a lack up. So it's like the entire buff system of Tempest basically is stay in the actual healing element as little as possible. Bladesworn, I put that there because of the gun saber. The warrior staff feels amazing, but after you're using warrior staff for a while, you're enjoying the game, and then you have to do a dragon slash in order to give your group alacrity. So you do the weeb slash, and everyone's impressed by your mastery over space-time, and then it automatically puts you into the gun saber weapon. You're stuck there for like 3 to 5 seconds, and it does not help with support other than proccing a trait called Lush Forest. So if people get in trouble and you're in that phase, you have to burn your shout heals to save them. This is similar to Tempest. If they're still in trouble, you are really praying staff swap comes off cooldown. Like, the staff is so good, it makes all the other parts of, like I would not even recommend playing a Lack Bladesworn, except for the fact that it provides a lot. Like, I honestly think that core warrior with staff feels better, but the Bladesworn part provides the alacrity, and people need that. Similarly, Berserker, much less so. Berserker, you swap from the staff to something else with the Warhorn to keep the Warhorn boons up, and then back to staff as soon as possible, and you do that frequently. And again, the main reason is to keep the boons up, so you occasionally put the amazing weapon away, and then you could be caught out without it. Chrono, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even remember why I put this here. I don't even remember why I put Chrono here. Why did I put Chrono there? Caught in the wrong mode moments. Continuum split? Maybe like an honorable mention. All right, so first I'll say Druid. Druid has the Astral Power system, which, just because I happen to be on him right now, Druid has to occasionally go into this form. In this form, they've got really big heals, and they also have some ranged heals, and everything they do provides alacrity around them. Now, the problem is that form also changes your glyph skills. If I go into that form, this skill becomes a massive res that could save 10 people's lives. If I'm not in that form, this is not a res. So sometimes I go into that form and I provide a bunch of alacrity to people. I leave that form, and then they take huge hits. I have less healing output because I don't have access to that form, or God forbid, 5 people go downstate because they mess up a mechanic. I can't AoE res them because I gave them alacrity recently. I don't like that design, and it has major caught in the wrong moments. So because you are constantly forced into that form, your healing output looks like this. It almost looks like a heartbeat monitor. So it's just like, I'm in Astral, I'm a great healer, I'm out of Astral, I still heal, but lower, and it just keeps doing like that. And if you have a problem when I'm leaving Astral, it's going to be a while before we could try to fix that, and you might be dead by then. So Chrono, I guess, was here because of Continuum Split. There is, sometimes something could happen while you're in continuum split and it could mess things up, but honestly, it's way less than all those other things. Okay. Revive carry. Can the healer we're talking about carry a group with revives? Scourge, number one. They greatly they nerfed the ability for Scourges to revive as hard as they were in the past, like a year ago. They are still way better than everybody else. On like a 10, 12 second cooldown, they can pull all nearby down states to them and start reviving them. That's not even counting the fact that they could press the F key just like anybody to revive them even faster. So they can pull them out of bad stuff. They also have a passive where anybody near them is not bleeding out while they're in down state. Okay, they're not bleeding to death. So you have all the time in the world to get them up as long as they're not in fire. Additionally, like they also have Well of Blood, which can help revive. They have a trait for an extra Well of Blood, which can help revive. They have Signet of Undeath for a targeted long range revive. They've got the most tools in that department. Second and third place, Druid and Untamed, in my opinion. They have a trait called Ally's Aid, where your pet helps you revive, so your revive is twice as fast. And you can start reviving and then just cancel it and go do something else, and your pet will finish getting them up. Search and Rescue is another skill you can choose to bring, which pulls an ally to you and your pet starts reviving them. Again, you can join in or just let the pet finish it. Those are both less than a 1 minute cooldown. And then Glyph of the Stars is the massive AoE res in an area. And then if you're Untamed, you don't have Glyph of the Stars, you'd use Spirit of Nature, which is almost the same thing, but it's got a 2 minute cooldown instead of like a 1 minute cooldown. So those are both, they both have 3 revive tools if you bring them all, which you can choose to or choose not to. Scrapper has 1 revive tool, which is the Function Gyro, but it's on a very, very short cooldown. You can send those out to save people. Once upon a time, I did a raid where I revived with, I raided with a bunch of people from ArenaNet, and while I was doing that, I ended up getting like 50 revives or something, and we still killed Karen. And that would have been a lot more wipes if I hadn't been bringing that character at that time. Tempest. Tempest has a revive with a Signet, and it also has the Geyser, which helps revive faster if they choose to bring that trait or the staff, or both. Firebrand and Willbender both have Signet of Mercy if they choose to bring it. Berserker and Bladesworn have the Banner Res if they choose to bring it. However, it has a much longer cooldown. Spectre and Chrono both have skills that help revive, but neither of them have a you're up. You know? Like, neither of them have a skill that just goes, this skill's now on cooldown and that guy's life is saved, period. They don't have that. They have skills that help revive. Spectre used to have Siphon. It's not really a thing anymore. Chrono has feedback traits that can help revive, but only in some situations. And that's basically it. The other classes, I don't think they really had, like, Mechanists and Revenants. They don't have any way of helping revive at all. Flex utility slots. Oh yeah, Guardian also has Merciful Intervention, you're right. Flex utility slots. Druid and Untamed. Very flexible. Literally none of these 3 skills are required. You can change these for whatever you need based on the fight. Chrono has a lot of flexibility down there also. Firebrand and Willbender, they almost have choice paralysis. They have too many good things here, and it's tough to choose what they want to bring to the fight. Scourge has maybe maybe Serpent Siphon is required, and the other 2 can be flex. Tempest, you're probably going to want either the Stability Shout or the Aegis Shout, or both, and then you've got a little bit of flexibility there. Scrapper and Mechanist, they almost always use the same skills, but they absolutely have the ability to swap one out for something else, like if they want to bring Battering Ram for a lot more CC for a fight, something like that. Berserker and Bladesworn, they have maybe 1 flex slot, maybe. The others felt pretty locked in. Like, for example, Herald and Rev, they can't even change their utilities. There's nothing really to talk about there. Desiccation on Scourge is required for Fury. Right, but sometimes other people can provide the Fury, which means you can swap it, but yes, you're right. Powerful Toolbox. This was something I just made up. Basically, if you look down here, is your selection of tools here very impressive? On my heal druid, nothing there helps. Most of this is helpful for a gimmick on Deimos. This is another condition cleanse. It's not something you take. Really, none of this helps. These sometimes help for support. This doesn't help, and like half of these help. On Guardian or Chrono, their toolbox of stuff down here, yo, they got stability down here, they got Aegis down here, they got projectile blocks, they got revives. Like, just some classes, their toolbox for support is better. Chrono and the Guardians have really good utility toolboxes. Scrapper and Mechanist also because of the kits. Keep in mind that like if you bring the toolkit or like the elixir gun kit, like that adds 5 more buttons. Plus also the tool belt if you're Scrapper. Mechanist doesn't have a tool belt, so 6 buttons. So these are just classes I thought had really nice toolboxes compared to the other options. DPS. Now this is something that is not going to matter for most. The DPS is like, you know, if you're a support, your DPS does help, you know? The more damage you do, the faster the boss dies, and then the sooner you're done. However, many supports do less than 1k DPS. However, Willbender, healer, does like 7 to 8k. It does way more. Mechanist, maybe 5 to 7, 5 to 10k, depending on boons, because you got a giant robot helping. And then Untamed, because the pet's attacking and also the giant snot stuff all around them is doing damage also. And Druid, maybe 2 to 4k, because its pet is attacking the whole time, even while it's healing. Because when you're in astral form, you're doing like 0 damage, but the pet is still nibbling away. And then probably all the others after that, unless I forgot something. 7 to 8k is more than some high DPS. Healing and boon range. So this is a combined thing, and honestly, this is just something I found interesting. Like Herald and Bladesworn have 600 range. Scourge has a really big range on Transfusion, the skill that does the healing around them. Renegade, pretty big range. Chrono, Druid, Tempest, Untamed, all kind of medium range. Scrapper and Mechanist, you know, you gotta basically be stacked on your party. Spectre is just weird. Firebrand, I put really far down because of the cone thing. Firebrand is the only healer that has to like get its allies in front of it and boon, you know, hit them with boons like it's a shotgun. So like if the Firebrand takes a step back behind the group, he's trying to hit them all with his boons. Willbender has to basically be meleeing constantly. Now, there are exceptions to all of these, okay? Druid, most of my boons are this area. But if some guy's in trouble over there, I can do like a huge heal really far away like this, right? All right, that's Druid. Now, that's not something you're doing all the time. That's like an exception. You know, Firebrand and Willbender have the thing that does summons the spirit bow and it rains healing arrows. If they do that, then obviously that's a long range heal. But I'm talking about like the stuff that they're doing on the regular. So, healing and boon range. There you go. Yeah, Willbender has to stay in melee constantly because they have to be swinging their hammer to be healing and cleansing around them and doing boons. When I took a Healbender to Old Lion's Court and it got a little chaotic because it was a pug and we ended up running all over the place to get out of red circles and stuff like that, my ability to heal went into the trash can. Because like someone dropped a red circle under the blue robot and we couldn't get into melee range of the blue robot, so ranged had to chip it down, and I could barely heal the group because I couldn't get into melee range of it. All right, next up, what was this column? CC carry, big crowd control, right? All right, not necessarily in perfect order, but this is how it felt. Chrono was Signet of the Moa. It hit like a truck on break bars. It absolutely hit like, I think it's like 600 break bar damage on like one click. And you've got other skills too. Like you can do like Rifle 3 and then do Moa Signet while Rifle 3 is priming and then both go off. Like you've got other stuff too, but that one is huge. Firebrand, if they put the Sanctuary Bubble on top of someone, it does like 700 CC or more, but it requires time because it does like, it attempts to knock back anything in the bubble every second, but bosses can't be knocked back, so it does like CC, 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 CC. As long as they're standing in it, it's hitting them with a CC every second for like 7 seconds, and it takes time. So some break bars, you don't have that much time. But on the longer ones, there are many break bars in the game. A Firebrand can just solo with Sanctuary, same with Willbender, as long as you've got that much time to clear the break bar. Druid, if you're running the Marksmanship trait line, which has become popular recently, Moment of Clarity increases the duration of your stuns by 50%, which means they do 50% more break bar damage. So any CC you've got is amplified by 50%. And, you know, you like on just a normal kit, you might have like Mace 3, Glyph of Equality, Astral 3, you can bring pets that have CC, stuff like that. You've got some choices there, so Druid has some good stuff. Herald and Renegade, mainly I put them here because their Staff 5 is an incredibly huge CC tool. Scourge has the Flesh Golem is the one-hit wonder there. They also have other CC as well. Their F4 fears all around them. Their staff has a fear. Their Warhorn has a fear. Their torch has a stun, depending on the weapons they bring. I didn't really have a column for this, by the way, but Scourge has the most flexibility of weapons. You can use almost any necro weapon and still be a support on Scourge, and you'd be fine. But yeah, Flesh Golem hits really, really hard for CC. Spectre has a lot of CC skills on their bar, and also if you bring Basilisk Venom, that is really hard hitting. So Basilisk Venom basically makes the next attack from each member of your team do CC. So if all 5 people are attacking, you use that, and it's almost instantly like 5 CCs hit the target. So very powerful move. Someone in chat said also Spectral Grasp. Yeah, Spectral Grasp, as far as like a one click, how much CC does it do? It's not nearly as much as many of these other skills I'm talking about, but it does, you know, also pull in a bunch of enemies, so it's a multi-use tool. Mechanist, I put there because Mechanist, you've got your Mace 3, your Shield 4, and Shield 5. Shield 4 and 5, you're often having to burn because of the protection uptime. However, if you're in unique situations where the boss is doing lots of outgoing hits, but he has a break bar, you can use Shield 5, which it looks like he holds up like an electrified shield, and every hit that hits the shield CCs the target. So there are a few gimmicky fights in the game where you can hold up Shield 5 and make the boss CC himself like 20 times very rapidly. There's also times it's good to unsummon your mech and then bring it crashing back down again, and that does huge CC as well. He's got a few other CCs, but those are the ones that are noteworthy, I think. All right, next column I made was teammate targeting. Spectre, now this is a bad column. This feels awful. Spectre has to do that a lot, and it does not feel good to play. Again, my opinion. Herald and Renegade, if they're running the new Scepter, may choose to use the Scepter 3 skill a lot. I think it was 3. I think it was 3. And that will do a connection to an ally, which gives boons like 7 seconds later. It feels bad, and it made me want to generate that fury through other means and not use that skill. Yeah, there's that. Forced movement. This is a column just for people that are forcibly moving around. Sometimes that's bad, sometimes that's good. Willbender, constantly having to use their dashes. For those that have never played Willbender, their F1, F2, and F3 from Core Guardian changed to be like movement skills. And you're constantly having to like dash back and forth through the boss to provide your buffs, your boons. Chrono, I put here because of Continuum Split. How many times have you seen in Chrono, like the whole group's together, and then they move out of a mechanic that's about to kill them, and then the Chrono snaps back and goes, Continuum Split, and then just dies. Lorenity has a famous clip of her doing that. It's like a rite of passage for Chronos to get killed from their own Continuum Split, and that is why that's there. Mechanist and Scrapper, if they're using Mace. If they're using Mace, Mace 2 does like a leap forward, which, I've embarrassed myself a couple times. Like I might be on Harvest Temple, I'm hitting the boss, I hit Mace 2, and right then the boss phases and goes untargetable, and I just yeet myself off the platform. I know some other people have done it too. It's a thing that can happen. Druid is now in this category because of the new Druid. Mace, I think it's Mace 3, is basically the same. You use Mace 3 and you just throw yourself, just like that. Spectre almost everything it does is shadow steps. Almost every single thing it does is teleports, which is really annoying in some locations because you'll be clicking on the ground and it'll say no path, and you can't teleport, so you can't use your skills. Fortunately, I don't know of any boss arenas that have that issue, but I know of lots of places in open world where it's awful. Rev Staff. True, if you're doing CC, Rev Staff 5, which is the big CC, does send you flying forward. So, if you don't want that, too bad. Alright, healing output issues. Only one thing in this column, Willbender. All of the healers, I would say, are capable of doing enough healing for like 95% of the game. For Willbender, I might say 90% of the game. There were times when it just didn't have enough. Like, remember, this is the one I said was easiest to play. It felt like I hit a ceiling very, very quickly on like the maximum healing output. Now again, the healing output it does is more than enough for most content in the game, but for the spicy content, it felt like it just couldn't keep up. Like the green numbers it provided were not powerful enough. So I made that column there just for him. Annoying quirks. This is some overlap here with some of the other stuff, but just to take it from the top, Willbender, you constantly are dashing around. Like, it's like, here's the group all stacked up, here's the boss, and the Willbender's like he's drawing pentagrams or something. He's dashing all over the place, and if ever he's not in melee range, his healing output dumpsters. He really thrives when he can melee the boss, and everyone is standing right on top of him. When he can't do that, things start collapsing. The Spectre, the annoying quirk, as mentioned, it's making your teammates go invisible and turning their attacks off, and also the need for ally targeting. So, if you could get by only targeting allies or get by only targeting the boss, it would be fine. I played 10 years of WoW before this and EverQuest before that. I've done raid bosses where, I did ally targeting for healing. It feels fine in those games, largely because of mouse over macros. For those that don't know what those are, it would be like if I just moused over that guy and clicked heal, and I moused over them like heal, 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 and I don't actually click on them. But in this game, it's like left click, do a thing, left click, do a thing, left click, do a thing. That whole time you're not attacking. Left click the boss, hit the boss some more, left click, do a thing. But there's no like mouse over macros or things like that in this. So honestly, just in this game with the way it's set up right now, ally targeting does not feel good. So that's why that. Untamed is here because of the blinding snot cloud. I notice my allies make more mistakes when I run Untamed because of that. And it's the primary reason I don't play it that much. I would love to see a way to have that turned off. And it would need to be a default. Because if you pug with people you don't usually play with and they see the snot cloud, it's going to be a problem again. Scrapper, I put it here because I just vehemently do not like how they do the protection boon. They've got like 5 skills, one that gives Aegis, ones that revive people, one that blocks attacks, one that does their big self-heal, and they have to burn those skills to give prot. And I really, really dislike that. I think as far as sacrifices to provide a boon, I think Scrapper has to do the biggest sacrifices of any of the healers I've learned. Okay. Are people happy to see you? Firebrand. So this column is here to remind me to talk about, for those that are newer to the game, there was absolutely about a 5-year period where Firebrand was the best healer. It's still great. It's not like just hands down the best anymore, but for about 5 years, it was like the only healer with stability, like the only one with Aegis, and it had copious amounts of it. And it was a good healer too and provided all the other boons. Like, oh my god, dude, when I was maining Druid at that time, I couldn't get into fractal groups unless I made the group. Like, people were like, oh no, we don't know how to do the mechanics without stability. No, get out. Like, it's not as bad now. So like now, for example, Tempest has a stability, Druid has 2. They've spread a little bit around so other healers are allowed to play the game. But Firebrand has that reputation. Now, at this point, again, if you're joining a group for fractals and literally any healer on this list is in your group, if they know how to play, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be absolutely fine. But these guys, they've got so much stability, they've got so much Aegis, You know, they've got so many tools. Like, honestly, I don't think they will ever be perfectly balanced. The fact that their class mechanic gives them effectively 3 more weapons worth of... Dude, whoever thought of that is insane. Like, you compare that to, like, the other class mechanics from Path of Fire, it's like, you are joking. 3 more weapons worth of abilities is just, it's so far and above what everybody else got. I don't think they can ever backpedal on that. But yeah, Firebrand has got a lot going for it. The others have caught up a lot in recent years, but it does have a reputation, and you may run into that. All right. Personal enjoyment. This is my last column. This is the last column of my thoughts after trying all of these, okay? Druid has been my main for years. I don't think that's going to change. It has got good healing, good boon output, good CC, good utility for different situations, and very high revive potential. I don't have a static group I run with. Usually when I do funny videos and stuff like that, I'm doing strikes and raids with random people, and having 3 ways to save people's lives per minute is basically so often makes the difference between we one-shot this or, you know, we had to do multiple attempts. So it saves a lot of time. You know, if every attempt on a boss is 10 minutes and we did it on the first try because I played my druid instead of like on the 3rd try, then I just saved 20 minutes for 10 different people. Like, that adds up really fast. Scourge. All the same enjoyments of druid. Good boons, good healing, good barrier also. Main thing, it doesn't have stability. I do love when I see, like, even when we're fighting like the polar bear strike, every time the hammer guy does this, I'm just like, boom. And I negate that stability for my group, and I often see the other group get knocked down. I love having instant cast ability. Now, Druid is not the only class that has this. Scourge does not, though. And I very much miss that when I play this character. Chrono. Excellent. Chrono, okay, I've mained Mechanist for a year after End of Dragons came out. I think I might like Chrono more now. Chrono was a class I had never really played before Rifle. It was actually a lot of fun. It felt very in control of the situation. I don't love the shatter mechanic, but it's fine. You know, it provides all the boons. It does crap damage if you care. It does good boons, good healing. It has very good stability and Aegis on demand. Probably my favorite Aegis mechanic in the game is it's got the one well that does Aegis, Aegis, Aegis a 3rd time. Now, the number one problem with Aegis is it is a boon that requires to be more skillfully timed than any other in the game. Aegis gives you a block and prevents a hit. But the problem is, what if it prevents a hit and then another, like, it prevents a weak hit and then the big hit you were trying to prevent hits you right after? Mesmer has, I think, the most idiot-proof Aegis that I have seen in the game with that well. The fact that it does 3 rapid back-to-back applications, it felt very good to play. What was it? The mantra healing and the mantra stability were really fun as well. And every build has the freedom to have Signet of Moa, which is, I was like, oh, is it CC time? Wham! It's just absolutely clap the bar. It feels great to play. Downside, it does not have any real way, in my definition, to save a wiping pug. If, like, this is a build where if the group is good, the Chrono is going to make them look good, all right? But if the group is bad, it cannot always make up for that, just because revive potential. You know, Druid and Scourge can carry the worst pugs. Going past this point, we're going into people that are great in groups, but they cannot carry the worst of pugs. Mechanist. I still love playing my Mechanist. I am a lover of supports and also pet classes, and Mechanist is both. I enjoy it greatly. Weaknesses, it has 1 stability and 1 Aegis, and they're the same mucking button, so if you use one, you use both. That feels bad. And it has no revives for teammates at all. Rest of it is great. Tempest was actually kind of fun. You know, it had a tempo to it. It had a tempo to it. It was like fire, fire, water, air, earth, earth, air, water, fire, fire, water, air, earth, air, water, fire, and you're just going back and forth. You're just vibing, all right? Honestly, there were moments I got bored playing it. because the fire is overload fire. And it's just like, okay, there's alacrity. All right, where were we? Water, air, earth. The overload times is basically, it was like fishing. It was like time I wasn't playing the game. And I got bored doing it. Now, it was good. It had like the instant cast Aegis. It had instant cast ability, pretty good healing, but it did have those moments where you feel like you got caught out. Like, bad thing happened to Billy. I'm not in water. I actually just left water, so it's on a 10-second cooldown. I got one move. Watch the pain away. I hope you're all right. Clean yourself up. Oh, that wasn't enough? Guess you're dead. Yeah, stuff like that. So I hate that feeling. So probably not going to be playing a lot of Tempest, but overall it was all right. Berserker, it was kind of fun. I would say I loved the staff. I hated the warrior. I honestly, of all the new weapons for supports, warrior staff wins. Okay? Mesmer gun was fine, but the Mesmer was amazing and it complemented the gun. Warrior staff is amazing and it carries the warrior. The warrior staff was so good and felt so good to use. And then you just got this idiot that's holding it. It's like, oh my God, can I take that from him and use it on someone else? God, the Berserker was not, like, Berserker was fine to, I cannot talk, the Berserker was fine to play. It's just you have to hit F1 like every second or two. Very high APM on one stupid key. Like, just triple the damage and triple the cooldown so I can hit that button less often, please. And I'm sure they wouldn't mind, they'd get bigger numbers. Man. Anyway, it was fun. It was fine to play. I loved the staff. I hated when I wasn't in staff, and so like you weapon swap, so I hated it like half the time. Untamed. You actually do good damage. You actually do like 7 to 10k more than some DPS. You're doing some damage. You're doing a lot of healing. You're doing the boons. I could look past the fact that it doesn't have stability. And it still has 3 revives, although one of them has a much longer cooldown than the Druids, because it doesn't have Glyph of the Stars, they have the Nature Spirit. But the Snot Cloud. The freaking Snot Cloud. Man, are you serious? Like, this and this. Like, these two things cover so much red circles. Like, I see so many groups muck up and die because they stand and stuff, because I was healing on Untamed. And, God, like, that's the main reason I have it this low. Look at me, I'm so curvy! Hello, Cupcake, the Taco Bell healer, yes. All right, Scrapper, personal enjoyment. I mained Scrapper for 6 months to a year at one point, pre-EOD. It was right after they got access to Quickness. I made one of the first guides for I was like new healer on the block, Quickness Heal Scrapper. Since then, they have reworked how it provides its boons over and over and over again. And the current version of it, I will say, now again, this is personal enjoyment. I do not enjoy the short bow. Even the idea of an engineer using a bow and arrow is so stupid in my brain that it makes me like recoil a little bit. So I'm already having to push past that. And then I try out the mechanics of it. Mace Shield just feels so much better. The only downside is that whole prot issue. Them trying to keep prot up is more difficult than any other class keeping any other boon up like in the game. I'm pretty sure. Maybe Renegade trying to keep regen up might be worse. But yeah, it feels weird. You know, personal enjoyment of Scrapper is held back by the fact that they keep wanting me to burn my Aegis, my big heal, my res to keep prot up, and also because of the short bow. I'm not a fan of the short bow, but that's a me thing. I've heard it's doing well in World v World, but you know, I tried it in PvE and I didn't care for it. Also, the short bow makes blue puddles on the ground that cover red circles, so it also has a blinding your teammates feature, just kind of like the Untamed as well. So that's kind of a bummer also. I would like to see it go back in some way. Here's the thing. I'm going a little off topic here. I would not mind it if offensive DPS provided the offensive boons, like Fury and 25 Might. I do think it's kind of silly that a healer needs to provide 25 Might, Fury, Regen, Prot, maybe Swiftness, maybe Vigor, Heals, Condition Cleanses, maybe Barrier, and also do all the weird mechanics like Sabbath Kiting, Knockback on the Soulless Horror ads, or Doom Kiting. I've gotten used to it, but it's the reason healers have a very low opinion of DPS. We're doing all this, and they're doing Unga Bunga, one thing. That's it. And standing in fire is an optional second thing. Like, oh my god. And so the Scrapper having to like just really jump through hoops in order to keep the boons up just feels bad. But yeah, if there was one boon that it struggled to keep up and it was like Fury or half the might stacks, that's more easily covered by someone else. But having protection with one of the #1 defensive boons be the thing it struggles to keep up is really rough. Regen and Prot are like two huge parts of your survival on strikes and raids, but it feels bad keeping Prot on that character. All right, Bladeshorn. Again, I really enjoyed Warrior Staff. It carried it. Hated the fact that after using Dragon Slash, it forces you to go into Gun Saber. I'm like, I just put me back in Staff. I did not want to be in Gun Saber. You forced me to be here. And every 20 seconds, I'm forced into this for like 5 to 10 seconds. And I can't help it. I'm just trapped here. I don't want to be there. So yeah, that's why that. Willbender, I mean, it was kind of fun. It was very easy to play. It didn't feel very powerful. You know, I think the Healbender is like training wheels for healers. It's a very easy to learn class if they wanted to get into it and they could handle healing like 80 to 90% of the content. But then eventually I feel like if it doesn't change, they should graduate to another healer later. That was my thoughts after playing it. Herald. Herald like was kind of cool. Like when you were in Glint, it was like, you know, keeping the boons up was super easy, stuff like that. However, the Herald energy system, which promotes you constantly swapping between legends, I personally didn't care for, because it constantly pushed a playstyle that made it to where you could be in the wrong thing at the wrong time. You know, like, oh man, I need to block projectiles, but I just left Centaur stance and I can't do that now. I could have stayed in Centaur stance longer, but then all the boons from Glint stance would have fallen off. You know, stuff like that. I really don't like I very much prefer if I have a tool for a job, I can save it for that job. I don't like being forced to swap through every type of weapon swap I have just for the sake of because it's there, which is what many of the classes promote you doing. And that's a me problem, not a you problem. Renegade for the same reasons. Also, Renegade felt worse than any other class for keeping regeneration up. Renegade back in the day used to give 10-man Alacrity, and that's it. Renegade gave 10-man Alacrity, and that is the only reason people brought it to groups, maybe stability also. But as a full healer, you're expected to bring Regen and Prot and 25 Might and Fury and maybe Swiftness, maybe Vigor. And Renegade struggles with a lot of those. It struggles with a lot of those, so it did not feel good to play. Especially Regen. I was sweating trying to keep Regen up. Which is the most... If Prot's the second most important defensive boon, Regen's the most important one. Firebrand... I could probably get into it if I played it more. I played Firebrand for one night. I played Firebrand for one evening. And it has a lot to learn. The Firebrand, again, you've got 5 weapons, so that's 25 weapon skills to learn. Also, activating each of those tomes does something, so that's 3 more buttons. That's 28 buttons to learn. There's also, you know, just your 5 normal buttons over on the other side, and some of, you know, a couple of them are mantras. And the mantras will be like, yo, you have to hit this button 3 times every 10 seconds. So you've got a couple buttons over here that you're hitting just like every time they light up to keep boons up. And then also you're juggling 5 different weapons over here, and you got the pages, stuff like that. It was a lot to learn. I know it's very powerful. It also has less revive options than these two. So Firebrand kind of in my mind was like Chrono. If you're in a good group, it will make them look better. All right? It will take a group already decent and elevate them to new levels. But if the group's bad, there is only so much the Firebrand can do. You know? Like, there's only so much it can do. Spectre. Of the classes I tried to play, this felt like the absolute worst thing in the world. After trying Druid, Scourge, Chrono, Mechanist, Tempest, Berserker, Untamed, Scrapper, Bladesworn, Willbender, Herald, Renegade, Firebrand, and Spectre, I award Spectre the most awful thing. That's me giving you a medal. All right, the most awful thing, okay? Having to target the enemy, target an ally, and go into stealth, turn your allies' attacks off, target an ally, ambush them, and hopefully they're near your other allies so that the stuff spills over and hits them. Noxxi cut this part out. Anyway, yeah, Spectre felt the most awful thing to play. The only things I have below Spectre are Catalyst and Mirage. And that is because I looked at them and they looked so positively heinous, I was like, I'm skipping that. Spectre, I at least tried. Catalyst and Mirage, I was like, this looks like a prank. These look like a joke. I think I'm just gonna pass. I'm not even trying this one. I found one guide of someone, you know, for, I think it was on Meta Battle for Catalyst from years ago, and they were like, works on Doom and Kadim, don't use it anywhere else. And I couldn't find anything on Mirage. So I'm not really sure what's going on with those two. There's a heal kata, apparently. Can't recommend it though. But that's it. That's it. If you're expecting a tier list, this is what you got. These are just my thoughts and things that I graded in my mind. And I want to really stress again that I played many of these classes. I've played thousands of hours. The rest of them I played for a day each. All right. This is like, I could, you know, a player who's played a long time, trying out other things and giving you my thoughts on them. Now, I didn't try every build of all of them. For example, if you ask the Firebrand community, what's the meta build? They will come to blows with each other. They can't even agree on what weapons to use, all right? So I played a build of Firebrand. I played a build of Tempest, right? There are others. There are others of all these. I did not play every single build of each of these, and I think it's important to point that out. If I were to try Tempest again, last time I did Dagger Warhorn, I might like to try Staff. I heard that the Staff has certain advantages, and it might be neat to try. Might give it a shot. I don't know. Healing Rain sounds like a fun skill. But some of these just felt so good to play. Like, yeah, Chrono, I started with Mace, what was it, Scepter Shield, and then I swapped to the rifle, and then I never swapped back out of the rifle for the rest of the fight. So I could have had like a staff with the rifle if I wanted to. Might be fun. Might have to try that at some point. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it. Those are my thoughts after this incredible journey over the last couple of months where I tried out every single healing build I could find in the game, and that's my reasoning for them. Definitely, I saw some of, I learned a lot. I saw some of this, like, I knew that Guardians did blue BS and then we took no damage. I didn't really know how they were doing it before now. Now I know. Like, I knew that Warriors had a way to heal by screaming at you. I didn't really understand the mechanics of it. Now I know. I knew that Spectres could be a healer. I had no idea how bad it really was. Now I know. And again, if you join a group and they have a Spectre healer, you should not be like, oh, Muck says this is bad and leaves the group. It's functional, all right? It's got the heals, the boons, it's got mobility, which is kind of weird, a ton of CC, it's got barrier. But if you're a Spectre main and you've never played anything else, please know that Mechanist can do everything you can do for 1/10 of the work, and it doesn't turn his allies' attacks off. Like, there are basically every other class that provides alacrity can do it so much easier. All right, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this journey of mine. Maybe I'll try DPS classes next. This seemed to be a bit of a hit. Those are all my thoughts on this stuff. And if you've got any comments, share them down below. I'll fight you there.